I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I honestly thought I had everything figured out with my fiancée, Emily. We'd been together for about 3 years and everything seemed perfect, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. She was smart, beautiful, ambitious. We were planning our wedding, and honestly I felt lucky to have her. Until I didn't. The signs started small at first. She was distant sometimes, would cancel plans last minute without much explanation, and her phone became a fortress I wasn't allowed into. I'd ask about it, and she'd brush it off, say she was stressed, or that she was just talking to her boss about some work stuff. I thought maybe I was overthinking it, or just paranoid because I was nervous about the wedding. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. One night I was staying late at work when she texted me, asking if I'd pick up some groceries on my way home. That wasn't unusual, but when I got home, things felt off. Her phone was on the countertop, face down, and she was in the shower. When I went to grab the groceries, I noticed her phone buzz with a message. Out of curiosity, or maybe just instinct, I glanced at her screen, and what I saw made my stomach drop. It was a message from her boss, Mark. They'd been texting back and forth all afternoon. The tone was casual but intimate, like they were more than just colleagues. A few messages caught my eye. "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "I've booked us a room downtown, just a little escape before the wedding." My heart sank. I could see the hotel details, the name of a place right in the heart of the city. It was a secret, hidden in plain sight, and I didn't need to read more to know what was going on. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Why the secret room? Why lie about everything? I didn't want to believe it, but I knew. I just knew. When she finally got out of the shower, I confronted her. I had to. My voice was shaky, but I managed to ask her what she was doing, why she was chatting so intimately with her boss, why she'd booked a hotel for just a little getaway. The look she shot me, more contempt than surprise, made it clear she'd been caught. Her answer, that I was being paranoid, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was blowing things out of proportion because I was insecure about the wedding. But I wasn't buying it. Not for a second. Seeing her there with that cold, bitchy smirk, I realized all the lies she'd been telling me. She'd been lying about her feelings about us, about everything. And the worst part, she'd been planning this secret affair right under my nose. It hit me like a freight train. She didn't love me, not really. She just wanted the wedding, the status, the comfort of pretending everything was fine. And me? I was just some guy who was too blind or too stupid to see what was right in front of him. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene over and over. My stomach churned with a mix of anger, hurt, and betrayal. I felt stupid for trusting her, and even more stupid for thinking I deserved better. How had I missed all the signs? How did I let her lie so convincingly? I was furious at her, but also at myself. I had given her so much, my time, my love, my future, and she'd just thrown it all away for some secret sex with her boss. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let this go without consequences. I didn't want to be the guy who got cheated on and just took it. I wanted to make her pay in some way or another. The question was, how? How do you deal with someone who has been lying so blatantly, who doesn't even seem to care about how much she hurt you? That's what I've been trying to figure out ever since I found out. After I saw those messages, everything changed. I was numb, but at the same time, I knew I couldn't just let this slide. I needed a plan, something to make her regret what she'd done, something to even the score. I didn't want just a breakup. I wanted her to feel the weight of her betrayal, to see what she lost when she chose Mark over me. But first, I had to get my head straight, gather evidence, and figure out exactly what she'd been up to. The next day, I started digging. I knew her schedule because she'd been acting suspiciously busy lately, always working late, always meeting clients. I decided to check her phone when she went to work. I found her password, something she'd always been secretive about, but I was tired of playing nice. I needed to know everything. What I uncovered made me even angrier. There were dozens of texts, pictures, and even a few explicit messages with Mark. She sent photos of herself in lingerie, saying how she couldn't wait to see him, how much she missed their secret rendezvous. And there was more: plans for the hotel, details about their supposed business trip, and even a screenshot of the reservation confirmation. I also found out about the hotel's name, the Enclave, a boutique place right in the middle of downtown, just a few blocks from our apartment. No wonder she picked that place. It was exclusive, discreet, perfect for sneaking around. The more I looked, the more it became clear how long this had been going on. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It was an affair, a full-blown affair, and she'd been lying about her feelings for me for months. I felt sick. My chest was tight, my hands trembling. I was furious, but I also felt betrayed by her, but mostly by myself. How did I not see this coming? How did she manage to hide this from me until now? The worst part was knowing she'd lied to my face every single day, pretending everything was fine, pretending she loved me, while she was sneaking around with her boss behind my back. I started to question everything, our memories, our future, whether any of it was real. That night I confronted her again. This time I was ready. I laid out everything I'd found, showed her the messages, the hotel reservation, the photos. Her face twisted into that familiar bitchy sneer, but I could see the panic behind her eyes. Her excuse, that I was overreacting, that Mark was just a friend, that I was blowing things out of proportion because I was insecure about the wedding. She told me I was paranoid, accused me of snooping, said I was ruining her life. She called me possessive, jealous, insecure. That's when I realized how good she was at lying, how she'd spun this web of bullshit to cover her tracks. I didn't buy any of it. I knew her game. She'd been lying to me, using me, and hiding her secret life. The thoughts swirled in my head. How could she do this? How could she pretend to love me, then turn around and cheat? I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. I was furious she'd been so manipulative, so damn clever at covering her tracks, but mostly I was devastated. I trusted her with everything, and she'd thrown it all away for some secret sex with her boss. I kept asking myself, how didn't I see it coming? How was I so blind to her lies? That night I stayed awake for hours, replaying everything in my mind. I looked at her sitting there with that self-satisfied smirk, and I realized she'd been lying to me from the start. She didn't love me, not really. She was just using me for stability, for the wedding, for the status. The woman I thought I knew, my future wife, was just a pretty face hiding a manipulative, selfish bitch who was willing to throw everything away for her own pleasure. Now I had a choice. Part of me wanted to explode, to confront her again, to tell her she was a lying piece of shit and walk out. But another part, more cautious, knew I needed to think carefully. I couldn't let her see me break down, not yet. I decided to pretend everything was normal for a little while longer, gather more evidence, and make a plan. I needed to do this right. I had to make sure she paid, not just for the affair, but for every lie, every ounce of pain she caused me. This was just the beginning. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, and I knew I had to figure out what my next move was. But one thing was clear. I'd been played, and now it was time to even the score. The more I thought about everything, the more I realized I couldn't just walk away without making her feel what she'd done. I had to get creative, had to make her regret ever crossing me. I started planning my next move carefully. I needed her to see that I wasn't some pushover she could manipulate. I wasn't going to let her get away with lying, cheating, and sneaking around behind my back. I knew she loved playing the victim, so I decided to use that against her. I began acting normal, but inside I was boiling with anger. I kept my cool, but I started turning things around in my head. What would hurt her the most? I knew she'd lied about her feelings, lied about us. She said she loved me, but her actions told a different story. I wanted her to see that I knew everything, that I had proof, and that she couldn't keep hiding behind her lies anymore. One day, I secretly installed a small recording device in the living room. It was simple, just a tiny mic I bought online, but it would record her conversations when she thought no one was listening. I didn't want her to know I was spying, but I also knew I had to have evidence of her lying. Just hearing her voice, knowing she'd been sneaking around, would make it real for her. A week passed and I kept up the act. I went to work, kept up appearances, but behind the scenes I was gathering everything I needed. I watched her behavior carefully, when she was on her phone, who she was with, where she went. I even hired a private detective just to confirm what I already suspected. She was still seeing Mark, still planning their secret rendezvous. The detective followed her downtown to the hotel, snapped pictures of her entering and leaving. The proof was mounting. One night I decided I'd had enough. I sat her down, told her I knew about the affair, about the hotel, about everything. Her reaction, classic. She went full-blown bitch mode, yelling, calling me paranoid, accusing me of stalking her, saying I was ruining her career and her reputation. But I just kept calm and showed her the evidence, screenshots of the messages, the hotel reservation, the detective's photos. Her face drained of color when she saw the pictures. Her lies crumbled instantly. That's when she snapped. She started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, yet I knew better. She was just trying to manipulate me again. Her excuses. It's just sex, she said. He's just a boss, it doesn't mean anything. I never loved Mark, I only married you because I thought I had to. That was her go-to, always the victim. Always the liar. I could see through her act now. She'd been lying from the start, pretending to care, pretending she loved me. But I could see it plain as day. She'd been using me just like she used everyone else. That night everything shifted. I felt a mix of rage and sadness I'd never experienced before. I was furious at her for betraying me, and I was heartbroken because I'd truly loved her. But more than anything, I was done. Done pretending I didn't know. Done allowing her to manipulate me. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't be with someone who lied so blatantly, who played me for a fool. I packed my things and walked out, leaving her sitting there crying fake tears, still trying to deny everything. As I drove away, I felt a strange calm come over me. I'd finally taken control of the situation. I had all the proof I needed, and I refused to be the guy who got played and stayed quiet. The betrayal cut deep, but now I could finally start healing. I knew I wouldn't forget what she did, but I also knew I'd come out stronger. I'd learned a lesson about trust and about not ignoring the warning signs. I'd also learned that some people are just selfish, manipulative, and incapable of real love. Looking back, I wish I could say I feel nothing now. But I do feel a strange sense of relief. I'm not with her anymore, and I'm not going to let her ruin me. I want other guys out there to know, if you see the signs, don't ignore them. People like her, people who lie and cheat, are out there. Be smarter than I was. Don't let them take you for a ride. Sometimes the best revenge isn't even revenge. It's walking away and knowing you're better off without someone so toxic. After I left her that night, I thought I'd feel some kind of relief, but honestly, it was a mix of exhaustion and a hollow feeling I couldn't shake. For days, I ran through everything in my head. Her lies, her sneaking around, the way she always managed to make it seem like I was the crazy one for questioning her. The worst part was realizing how much I'd trusted her, and how she'd been planning this behind my back all along. It felt like my whole world had been turned upside down, and I didn't even know where to start putting the pieces back together. I stayed with a friend for a while, needed some space to breathe, to think clearly. But even then I kept replaying everything. Her words, her fake tears, the way she always tried to make me feel guilty for suspecting her. It's funny, really, how someone can lie so convincingly, make you doubt yourself, make you question everything you ever believed in. But I refused to be that guy anymore. I decided I had to find some closure, some way to move forward, even if it meant confronting the pain head-on. I started seeing a counselor, just to get my head straight. It helped to talk it out with someone who wasn't emotionally involved. They told me I was grieving, that I'd lost not just a partner but also the future I'd imagined with her. I guess I needed to hear that I wasn't crazy, that her betrayal was real, and that I wasn't weak for feeling hurt. I had to accept that she wasn't the person I thought she was. That was the hardest part, accepting that the woman I loved was capable of such lies and manipulation. During this time, I also reached out to some of my friends for support. They knew her. They'd seen her attitude change over the last few months. Some of them even suspected she was up to something, but nobody wanted to believe it. It's crazy how people can be so blind to the signs when they want to see only the best in someone. But once I showed them the evidence, they were just as angry as I was. The feeling of betrayal went beyond just me. It was a punch to the gut for everyone who'd ever trusted her. I also decided to confront her again in a way, not to argue, not to yell, just to hear her try to spin her story one last time. I called her and told her I needed to talk face to face. She was hesitant but eventually agreed to meet. When she showed up at my apartment, she was still trying her usual tricks, acting like the victim, crying fake tears, saying she loved me, that she was sorry, that she never meant to hurt me. But I cut her off. I told her I knew everything. Hotel marked the secret messages. I told her I had proof, that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. Her reaction, that same bitchy smirk. She shrugged, acting like it was no big deal, that I was overreacting. Then she started throwing accusations at me, saying I was stalking her, that I was insecure, that I was the real problem here. That was the moment I realized just how much she'd lied. She was trying to turn the tables, make me feel guilty for catching her. But I stayed calm. I told her that I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore, that I was done playing her game. I told her I was moving on, that I was going to rebuild my life without her lies and manipulation. That conversation was the final nail in the coffin. After she left, I felt this strange sense of liberation, like I'd finally cut out the poison that was dragging me down. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, that she'd proven she was capable of anything for her own pleasure. I also knew I had to focus on myself now, heal from the trauma, and figure out what the next chapter of my life looked like without her in it. It wasn't easy, and honestly, some nights were still hard, but I was determined to move forward. The thing I learned through all this is that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you really are. I won't let her define me, nor will I let her betrayal destroy what's left of my confidence. I still feel the sting of it every now and then, but I'm starting to realize that the worst betrayal is not knowing what someone is capable of until they do it. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's almost impossible to fix. So I guess the best thing I can do now is keep moving forward, stay cautious, and never ignore the signs next time. After that confrontation, I knew I had to do more than just walk away. I needed to make sure she understood exactly what she lost, and that she couldn't just manipulate her way out of this. The worst part was knowing she'd probably try to spin it all in her favor, make herself the victim again. I also wanted to send a clear message to her boss, Mark, that he wasn't getting away with this without consequences. I wasn't just going to be some guy she could betray and forget about. So I started planning my next moves carefully. I knew I had enough evidence to make her look bad, but I wanted to go further. I decided to contact the hotel directly, the Enclave. I called and explained I was a friend of Emily's and wanted to confirm her reservation. I told them I'd heard she was planning a surprise getaway, and I needed to verify the booking. The clerk looked it up and confirmed she'd booked a room under her name, with her boss Mark's name listed as a guest also. I asked if they knew anything else about their plans, and they said they'd seen her come in with a man, tall, blonde, handsome, definitely Mark. That was enough. I had proof their affair was still active, still ongoing. I also hired a private investigator just to get more concrete evidence. They followed her for a few days, capturing photos of her sneaking out of our apartment late at night, getting into Mark's car and heading downtown. The pictures were damning. No more guessing, no more suspicion, cold, hard proof that she was still lying, still cheating, and still hiding her secret. With all this, I felt a kind of clarity I'd never experienced before. I knew what she was doing, who she was working with, and how deep her lies went. I sat down one evening, took a deep breath, and drafted a message to her. Not a typo-filled rant, but a calm, calculated letter. I told her I knew everything, including the hotel, her ongoing affair, and her lies. I told her I didn't want to see her again, that I was done trusting her, and that I was going to share the truth with everyone she cared about. I explained I had the evidence, and I was prepared to make it public if she tried to deny it anymore. The next day, I sent the message. I included all the evidence I'd collected, screenshots of her texts, photos from the detective, the hotel confirmation, and the pictures of her sneaking out. I made it clear I wasn't playing any more games. I wanted her to see that I fought for myself, that I'd gone beyond the usual heartbreak and actually took steps to hold her accountable. The response? Silence. That's what I expected. She knew I wasn't messing around anymore. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I finally had control, and anger because I'd been betrayed so badly. I realized I'd been so blind for so long, ignoring the signs, trusting her when I shouldn't have. But I also understood that I couldn't change what she did. What was done was done. All I could do now was protect myself, learn from this, and move on. I didn't want her dragging me down anymore. So I began to focus on rebuilding my life. I got rid of everything that reminded me of her, her stuff, her pictures, the gifts. I cut all contact, blocked her on social media, and started spending more time with friends and family. It wasn't easy. Some nights I'd lie awake and think about what I lost, what I thought was a future together, the trust I gave her, the love I thought she felt. But I knew I had to accept that it was all a lie, and that moving forward was the best thing I could do for myself. Through all this, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that trust is fragile, something you have to protect and nurture, not take for granted. I learned that some people are just selfish, willing to betray everything for their own pleasure. And I learned that revenge isn't always about hurting someone back. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your own dignity, standing up for yourself, and walking away with your head held high. Now, sitting here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've grown from this nightmare. Losing Emily was brutal. There's no sugarcoating it. The betrayal cut deep, and it took me a long time to even start feeling like myself again. But in the process, I learned some invaluable lessons. Never ignore the red flags, trust your gut, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself when it counts. I found out that sometimes people's true colors only show when it's too late, and the best thing you can do is walk away before they drag you down further. I wish I could say I harbor hatred for her, but honestly, I don't. I just feel sorry for her, the kind of person who's so selfish and shallow that she'd throw away everything for a quick thrill. She's probably still lying, still cheating, and maybe even doing it to someone else right now. But that's her problem, not mine. I've decided to leave the past where it belongs, behind me. I'm focusing on fixing my life, rebuilding trust in myself, and making sure I never get caught off guard like this again. To anyone out there who's going through something similar, trust me, I know how tempting it is to stay and fight, to believe that things will somehow get better. But sometimes, the best thing you can do is cut your losses and walk away. No matter how much you loved someone, if they're capable of lying and cheating, they're not worth your pain. The truth might hurt, but in the end, it's better to know than to live in a lie. And remember, your worth isn't defined by someone else's betrayal. You're stronger than that. I've started focusing on myself, going to therapy, spending time with friends, and trying to forget her as best I can. It's not easy, but I'm taking it day by day. I never want to be that naive guy again, trusting blindly and ignoring the warning signs. Now I see the world differently. I see people differently, and I see my own value more clearly. So this is where I stand now. I'm single, I'm healing, and I'm finally free from the toxic web she spun. Maybe someday I'll find someone who genuinely loves me, someone who's honest and real. But for now, I'm just grateful I saw the truth before it was too late. Life moves on, and so will I. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's a chance to find your strength. And if I could give one piece of advice to anyone reading this, don't ignore the signs, don't make excuses, and never stay in a situation where your heart, your dignity, and your trust are being broken day after day. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and self-respect are what truly matter.